Welcome back to Newsmaker Live, and we have a call on the line. Thank you very much for holding, caller. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Reynolds. Me again. So, Reynolds, this is Centil from the Consumer Association. However, I made the point that some consumers say that notwithstanding that some goods, the price should be coming down, right? That they feel that unscrupulous merchants will raise the price and keep it at that level. How will Ms. Onson that consumers will be informed so that we know that those goods, for example, like a good that now attract like 50% CT, right? Now, given that there's no CT at 50% and VAT is 15%, so therefore they mark up instead of 50% of CT is 15% VAT. How can I, my association, right, get that kind of information so I could assist consumers?
Okay.
Because honestly, I mean, that is something that the Consumer Association is trying to want to help solution consumers, right? That is why we have not been on Friday to raise money so that we could help our educational program. You understand? Because we want to assist solution consumers.
Okay.
They are making those I mean, they have those fears. So therefore, we have to be in a position to say, to tell them that good ought to be cheaper because the VAT is lower than the city.
Okay.
How can you assist the association to help the consumer?
All right. Thanks, caller.
We addressed that to some extent earlier in terms of, though the rates, we talk about the rate being higher than the rate of consumption tax being higher than 15% and those below, and the impact, the possible impact on the price, other things being equal. We cannot tell people that because the consumption tax was perhaps 35% and now the VAT is 15%, that you should expect the price to just go down. Generally, other things being equal, we would expect the price to go down. And we cannot even say to you, where it used to be $40, it should now be $20. We cannot. At the end of the day, it is a business decision by the business person. They will make that determination. But like I said, that being said, on our part, is not a situation or authority to go on ahead and price exorbitantly. All right? What we are going to do and what we have started doing, we are working with the Statistics Department and the Ministry of, the Department of Consumer Affairs, I should say, where we have a list of items, more than just the basic items, and we've been monitoring the prices from, I think, it might be around November of last year, or even perhaps before that. And so we can provide, we can make it public information. We intend to make it public information. So you see the movement in the prices, as well as the existing rates of consumption tax and so on. That too we can make public so that the consumer and the Consumer Affairs, the Consumer Association can, have their discussion with the people and take what they think, or make the appropriate statement that they think is thing. But certainly we don't want to create an air of distrust between the business people and the consumer, and to expect things to go be priced according to the old people, ho to to. That's not what we say. There's a possibility that some people may take advantage of the situation and may want to price exorbitantly. But generally, I would think good sense would prevail, and to support the good sense, we are going to provide that additional information. Okay? But I cannot give prices. I cannot say to you the price of this item, a 44-inch television, will go down from X price to the next. I cannot at this point in time.
Good evening, caller. Thanks for holding. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello, good night. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, earlier you mentioned the VAT you pay at the end of the month is your input tax minus your output tax. With services where you don't necessarily import anything, right? You charge somebody a fee and you charge them the 15% on the fee. What would be a input tax? For instance, you have a consultancy. What would you classify as an input tax? Is that supplies that you purchase for your office? in the case of a service, how exactly does that work? Because we know for goods, you import goods into the country and you pay input tax, and when you sell, you collect the output tax. But with services, it's different.
Thanks, caller.
Import anything.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In terms of, before we talk about you being able to charge the tax, you have to ask yourself first, well, it needs to be stated up front or established up front. Are you registered to charge VAT at all? Okay? Is the service that you're providing a taxable service?
Okay.
So if you're answering in the affirmative to that, that means that you have the right to, you can charge VAT, and that will be your output VAT. So if you do provide the service, whatever you charge as VAT, the 15% is your output VAT.
And it's a pass on, so you pass on that 15% to your consumer.
And then if in terms of the input, again, if you buy taxable supplies, okay, so you buy inputs that are taxable, that have attracted the VAT, okay, that would have been your input VAT. So your input VAT, you net off the input against the output, and the net, if the output is in excess, you pay to the Inland Revenue Department.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we have our final caller. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, hello, good night.
Good night.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question here. Let's assume that I'm a small business person. I'm selling by the roadside, not by the roadside, but at my shop. And I'm buying from Super J. Now, I pay VAT, but I am not registered for or to collect VAT. I mean, I'm paying VAT to Super J, but I'm not collecting VAT. Wouldn't that affect my business?
Well, as anything else.
Thank you, caller.
Yes. As anything else, it becomes a cost, a business cost to you, and you have to pass it on to the consumer. And don't forget, under the consumption tax regime, you would have paid, the tax would have been embedded in the price that you would have paid. So, and then you would have had to have passed it on to the consumer. So, it shouldn't, I mean, it's not totally different. There's some differences, but it's not so the gap between the what you would have paid or what you would have done under the existing regime and under the VAT regime is not so much more different. I mean, like I say, under the consumption tax regime, the price is already embedded and so on.
You
and
just
so
don't
you just
see
pass it on to the consumer.
Yeah.
So if you are not registered, you don't meet the threshold and whatever it is, and your charge VAT on your purchases, I mean, when you sell to your consumer or to your client, you include it as part of the cost. So
and the threshold, of course, is $180,000. So if you're not making $180,000, then you'll not be registered to collect VAT. Now, before we end, we just have about a minute left. Let's go quickly into the certificate that needs to be displayed, which is a requirement, and also the penalties for people who collect VAT who are not entitled to collect VAT on behalf of the government.
Well, you would have seen one of the, I think, well, perhaps not played recent, but I remember during some time ago, there was this long check-a-pesh in the community presentation for VAT. And one of the characters had this store where she placed a piece of cardboard with the word VAT written on the refrigerator. And, you know, she was about to be charged in VAT. No, the VAT certificate can only be issued by the Inland Revenue Department. It is a standard certificate.
Not a piece of cardboard.
No, it's not a piece of cardboard. And if you have a number of different premises for your businesses, you need to inform Inland Revenue. So they give you what looks like an original for every premise, every business premise that you maintain. So you cannot take an original and photocopy it and just stick it up whatever it is. No. There are rules and regulations that the Act prescribes on how it is that we deal with the registration certificate, as well that there are penalties in the law, in the what will be the Act for collecting VAT. It's an offense to collect VAT when you have no authority to do that.
Right.
So the people that want to put the piece of cardboard on the refrigerator, you really and truly should not be doing that. You put yourself in trouble.
Great.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank Ms. Adria Sonson, the coordinator of the VAT implementation project. I'm sure that she'll be back with us before September, because when we get into the heat of it, I'm sure there'll be many more questions to answer. We thank you, those who called in, for your questions, and also viewers for staying tuned to this program. Well, just before we leave, coming up tomorrow, last week on DFL, Delia and the guests discussed the laws of succession. Viewers' response was tremendous, so DFL talks about wills again tomorrow. This time, they're helping viewers decide what to include in a will and how to make it easier to leave belongings to beneficiaries. Attorneys at law Veronica Snack returns with Lana Wilson, who experienced the frustrations of an outdated will. That's DFL with Delia Dolo on DBS tomorrow from 8:30. So please join Delia tomorrow at 8:30 for another Dolo Factor Live. Well, until the next time, I'm Clinton Reynolds again thanking you. Remember, I'm here on Saturday night, God willing, for the Press Club. So join me then. Until that time, have a good night.